welcome to Once Upon a Ramble, where we, the members of the Once Upon a Roll Dungeons and Dragons group, sit around and talk about various topics pertaining to our D&D campaign or D&D in general. This week, we're going to begin our discussions on our player characters, starting with Durand, our blue dragonborn played by Duen. Today we have the whole cast here: Duen, Cele, Nimue, Magia. Welcome. Hello.
Hoi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey. What's up?
Everyone's got their own thing. We need catchphrases, apparently. All right. So, as I said, we're going to talk about various things dealing with the character of Durand, ranging from the character creation process to certain aspects in the story. We're probably going to get derailed at some point and just start rambling, but that's kind of the point. So, I guess to start off, I'll talk about, how it is that we make our characters, because various D&D groups do it differently. They have different methods for creating characters, different restrictions or lack thereof, different ways to roll their stats. So for our group, we do a fairly typical 4d6, drop the lowest for stats, and do that 6 times, and you're allowed to place your ability score rolls wherever you want. Now, for people that know D&D, that's all going to make sense. For those that don't, probably not so much. But explaining that, I don't believe, is this video. Also, me personally, since we do run in a generally custom-created world with lots of, not at the start, but now, good amount of homebrew, I did put some restrictions on certain races. Generally speaking, any race from the player's handbook was fine, with the exception of the drow elf. And that is probably going to be a talking point in a later episode, as I believe we had one character that probably would be drow at this point if they had the chance. And anyways, speaking of your character, Durand.
Yes.
Where did that name come from? Starting off, why Durand?
I think it was like a something French related. Maybe it had something to do with like the sword, the Durandal.
Okay, I can see that, because you had initially had very different, let's say, ambitious thoughts as to how you would be playing this character with regards to his voice specifically.
Oh yeah, no accents are happening on this boy ever. It has ranged from no, never. It has ranged. It's too late to do it now.
Well, I mean, I thought you meant yourself. So there's hope for a next character having an accent then?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I really want maybe the next guy to be something Russian.
Mm.
Yeah, the one I was working on with you was supposed to have like a Brahm.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
All right. So back to Durand. He is Dragonborn. I feel like that was... Were there any other options for you once you saw that Dragonborn was an option? Were you debating between other races? So once you saw Dragonborn, you knew definitely Dragonborn.
Yeah, for sure. There was nothing else that was gonna happen, and the answer to it is super simple. I like dragons. It's literally like the I like trains thing, but with dragons.
I like trains.
No explicable reason for it is just like, if it's scaly, I like it.
Same thing with the choice of the subspecies thing, subrace, the blue.
It's just interesting because even when it comes down to, I think, my favorite color, but not my favorite element. It's always like blue has been my favorite color, but fire has always been my favorite element. So, as much as I would have thought that maybe like a red dragonborn might have been a thing more because of my preference in element, I couldn't. I just couldn't do it. So imagine, Durand technically should have been red.
That's weird. I can't like just thinking about it now. For some reason, this is the first time that I'm thinking about it, but I can't imagine Durand as anything other than a blue dragonborn. Like
Right?
looking
It's
at
just
your picture right now, would he be the same character if he wasn't blue?
I think it matches a lot with his attitude, his color and his attitude go really well together. So he's red. That might have changed some stuff. I don't know. I ride him like the flow.
So speaking of his character, his personality, when you created Durand, what was the initial thought? Like I know that there wasn't you didn't come to me with pages of backstory, but
God,
what
no.
was the idea of the concept of who is this character? So you got Blue Dragonborn that's cinched in, but who was Durand in your head when you were making him?
Durand was supposed to be supremely edgy. Which kind of sucked in the original idea because it's like considerably easier to just sit there and just, considering his backstory, which we'll get into in a bit, I'm sure. Um but the mentality was to be like super edgy, like doom and gloom based off of his backstory, and be like a loner, a quiet boy that like how do I put this? He was supposed to do good, but for a more selfish reason. It was not supposed to be a noble act by any means. Definitely developed into something more.
So you say that, so do good but for more selfish reasons. I think that's a decent opportunity to segue into your backstory. So, can you expand on that? Like, do good for selfish reasons. What would those selfish reasons be and why?
Originally thinking up the character, it was he was really only supposed to care about my companion at the time. He was really just supposed to like kind of protect that person, be like a knight in shining armor to the last person that he knew from his clan. And to everyone else, he was supposed to be cold, quiet.
Okay. I see.
So if there's anything that he was going to do, was going to be to protect that one person, and for him to get stronger.
Okay, and I think that we actually did kind of see that. I mean, people started referring to, as you said, your companion, the other character, Akara, who was run by a player that no longer plays with us. But you guys both so happened to choose Blue Dragonborn, so, coincidences, and it weaved your backstories together a bit. But Akara, that the character started being referred to as a princess because of how you were around that character, how Durand was acting.
True. It would have been interesting to see how that would have developed further. considering it wasn't true. But imagine if like everyone else started thinking that she was a princess and I was some sort of like royal guard or something.
So, for those that were playing at the time, Nemo and Cele, what were your initial thoughts on Durand and this attitude that he may have had? So, the first time that you guys as players saw Dune come in with this character, what was that first impression like?
Um, well, for me, Elvorn just walked into the Grapevine Inn and Tavern, and she tried to say hi to everybody, and the only one who spoke to her was Durand. So that was interesting given what I know now.
At the time, we were sitting at a table, which was a lot harder to try to play ignoring you than I probably would have liked to in character.
Oh, I see how it is. No, that's good. No, that's fair. It is fair. But it was also weird because everybody was that way.
It was our
Was like, oh, I was first too, you bastard! I swear to God.
first then, first now.
True. It's okay. This time I'm not prepared, but
At least you've been with the character for a few years. Anyways. So, let's talk about this backstory. This backstory that you touched on, that you mentioned, had caused your initial concept of this character to just be a dark and brooding edgelord. What is this backstory? Did he lose a cat? What happened?
something like that actually. Several, probably. If we had cats, interesting. The concept of pets now back at home is just like,
Think about it. That's just
um, well, now everybody knows, or I think. Well, I guess Era doesn't know, so Mags will now know. That Durand's town was attacked by a big old black dragon and a bunch of black dragonborn, where he presumably lost everybody because he tried to jump into the thick of it and save whoever he could. See his I'm pretty sure he witnessed his father's death, although no real confirmation until later. And he had no clue what happened to his mom or his friends or anybody. And then, he wakes up freaking being carried over to the southern provinces by the freaking massive dragon Yildirim. And then just like basically giving me like 3 sentences and then dipping. Like it's not over and that we've got to fight to win the take back.
yeah,
With Akara too.
with Akara as well. So it was a terrible scene. The attack out of nowhere by this large black dragon and an army of black dragonborn to your home, basically. It was a nasty affair. Acid everywhere because black dragons, that's what they do. I think even meteors, just flaming rocks from the sky. It was nasty. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I remember that.
You should, because it's happened. But Durand went. He saw his father fighting. He saw his father slain. He ran up, grabbed his dad's sword, the one that he still carries with him to this day, albeit a little bit different than what it was then. And when confronting his father's killer, the Black Dragonborn, was pretty overpowered, I would say. That led to you being knocked unconscious and later waking up to a new world, a new land, and the large blue dragonborn, like you said, Yildirim.
Just your friendly Alivorn interrupting, but it was a dragon, not a dragonborn. Okay, back to it.
Standing there above you and Akara, you're confused. Yildirim's angry, and blue dragons being rather proud and vain. Instantly, vengeance is the brothers,
Yeah. Very first thing probably that came to mind. Despite the calm, cool attempt, yes.
So after that, you and Akara went around trying to get a feel for this new place. You did some odd jobs just to survive until you found your way to Crestfield and wandered into that tavern. Now, this isn't going to be... We're not going to get further into that. That's getting into a recap of the campaign, and that'll take us forever. So we're not going to do that. We're going to stick with focusing on Durand. Now, something that we didn't mention was your class.
Oh, class is I think one of the hardest things that I think it took like a couple of hours, at least like 2 hours to try to figure it out with you.
Yeah, because at first we were only using the player's handbook. Xanathar's came later. I'm not sure if that would have changed your mind at all for anything, but we weren't using Xanathar's at first. We were just using strictly the player's handbook and the classes in there. So I can assume that you were never going to have Durand be any sort of like full spellcaster type. But what were the options that you were going through in your head?
The main things I was thinking of was what I eventually ended up starting off as anyways, which was the Eldritch Knight. I think it was the first thing that I looked at. And you had... The only reason that I had an inkling of a thought of something else is when you mentioned Paladin. But Paladin felt really weird at the time. Especially, considering
your thought of the character, how you envisioned Durand to be.
Yeah, like everything kind of matched up with Paladin in terms of probably how I wanted to play him anyways, in combat, but it was not matching the character I had in mind at the time.
And, well, spoilers, Durand is currently a paladin. We went through a pretty radical shift there. Initially thinking about just multi-class type stuff, but then deciding, you know what, scrap it and just you're a paladin now because it's more fun that way, rather than gimping yourself with a multi-class like that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who disagrees can bite me. But as far as that transition, that growth, I feel like it's better how things went. Starting off as that Eldritch Knight fighter and then becoming a paladin rather than being a paladin from the beginning. I feel like your transition as a player from playing a fighter to playing a paladin, it was beyond just the class and the actions that you can do and the spells that you can or can't cast, but it was like step for step. It worked so well with Durand's character transformation a bit. Because I think you were even multi-classing into Paladin, taking a couple levels, a level or two, but then eventually going full Paladin.
Yeah. I think I was gonna stop at... I was stopping Eldritch Knight at like 12 or 13, and then the rest was gonna be Paladin.
Yeah, I think it might have been 9, but that's not. Anyways, but so sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, as kind of an outside party to it, it is honestly kind of one of my favorite parts of our campaign so far. Is like Durand's transition and growth from, like you said, from the Eldritch Knight into the Paladin. Like the story that just formed around that was amazing, and like so well done. Like I was so excited.
I actually do kind of agree with Nimue on there. It was really nice and how the transition, how it went.
I would say my biggest gripe with the transformation of Paladin is kind of the after effect of everything now, where we just did the like job change at the same level kind of thing, so I don't feel like Durand is a stronger Paladin than Sven. Technically speaking, like story wise, obviously.
Yeah, I mean,
But
if you
we
start
just
bringing in levels and weird stuff like that into, like, because your characters obviously have no concept of levels.
of course.
Imagine if they would.
It's just it reminds me of a
You get some rabbits. Close to 13 here, guys.
it just brings me back to the conversation that I had with yeah.
Arlok?
No, Torban. Yeah, where Torban's like, you didn't come through in the natural ways, and I'm like, God, I know.
There was a time when I had actually, oh, jeez, we're all over the place here.
That's
Talking
fine. I
about-
mean, it's still talking about it. It's still Durand, technically.
Yeah, but talking about the Platinum Mages, no one knows what a Torban is. But anyways, yeah, just going through that, like, I had thought of things like, but it was too much. I had thought of like, setting up like Durand, okay, you're an initiate in the Platinum Mages, but it didn't make sense, and it was just another thing to juggle in the whole
Mm.
mess of stuff that was, the retakification force. So having Durand be an initiate didn't make sense. Instead, he was you took on more the role of kind of like not an underling, but a sort of mentor-y, like a mentorship with Sven. Really, is what it ended up being. I feel he kind of
Yeah.
took you on like directly under his wing.
Yeah, that's the same feeling I had throughout the whole entire thing. I didn't feel like I went through the usual flow of it. Just kind of just mentoring under like Ben, exactly as you mentioned it. Yeah.
Durand got special treatment.
For real, I deserved it.
Well, I mean, in the story, it was mentioned many times that Durand was very proficient with fighting. So, like, even being taken under Svenkrid's, wing, as you said, he was still able to provide instruction to the initiates on how to, like, fight in general. Like, this is the pointy end of the sword, you don't grab it.
Made sense. The way that Zen had kind of explained it in a way, because when we were having the whole scene with Durand and meeting Bahamut, it was after leaving and then talking to Sven. Sven had he's always sensed something was like affecting Durand in a way, and it's like it would make sense that would give Sven purpose towards kind of like resolving Durand's inner conflict, transferring him over to the paladin self.
Because that was another thing. Durand, back in your home when you were just, the son of this, great soldier up for your clan, and being trained and coming up as a soldier and a fighter yourself to defend your clan, you didn't have magical powers. You couldn't cast spells. You were just sword swinging big blue boy. Then all of a sudden, you go unconscious for a who knows how long, enough to fly across the ocean apparently, and you come to with the ability to cast spells. I'm surprised you didn't question that or try to pursue that further.
Well, I didn't have many. I didn't have many leads. I think the only person that ever brought it up as suspicious was Justin Vasselholm, the whoever her name was that I played chess with.
Yeah,
No one else brought it up. Yeah,
I
Timmy.
wonder what she did.
No clue. Yep, no clue. She's the only one that brought it up. No one else brought it up, and I think, honestly speaking, aside from just not being the greatest at role playing at the time, I think Durand was just willing to blindly accept whatever power he could receive at this moment. So if he can cast magic, it's like, well, whoop-de-doo. Heck yeah, we take those.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I felt was interesting in the transition that Durand had from being that fighter to paladin, because for the longest time his only goal was, initially protect Akara, right? Get stronger, get back to my home. That was it. And if I can help people on the way, sure, whatever. I get to go and save these people from a manticore, but really all it is I'm getting stronger because I'm fighting a manticore. Whoever I help that's a side effect. That's a
That's the
consequence of
idea.
being stronger. But
Yeah.
and all of that was for like personal strength. I need to get stronger. I need to be better. I need to get stronger. I need to rely on my strength to save my home and get back there and get revenge and everything like that. Whereas I feel like it was a drastic shift, and I feel like there was even, I'm not sure if you intended it this way, but I feel like there was even a bit of resistance from Durand when you were talking to the paladins of the Aegis, Svenkard in particular, because the whole thing with the paladin was, yeah, you're a great fighter, Durand. You're really strong, but if you want to do this, if you want these goals, you can't rely on your own strength. You need to rely on something else.
Oh yeah. Actually, a good thing you brought that up. It wasn't planned. It was just kind of in the moment kind of thing. I didn't do it on purpose. It just happened. Ben kind of was like, "Oh, you can't rely," and then me in character in the moment, still trying to be edgy, is like, no, I think I'll figure out a way myself." I can't rely on something else or whatever else is involved. Like, I'll just deal with it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the name of the game, and also something that Durand has retained, despite turning into a paladin, is handling things on his own, anyways. Flying across the southern provinces.
Yeah, right. Handle things on his own as he walks through trees cast by.
Yeah.
I got this on my own. Era, give me a fly spell.
No.
Damn. How am I supposed to do this on my own if you guys don't help me?
That's for you to figure out.
Exactly.
So it's also an interesting thing. Talking about first impressions with the character Durand. Mags, you probably had a first impression of his character before you even joined us. I assume you knew something about what he was doing before you started playing with us.
Yeah, he would talk to me occasionally. Like, aside from like trying to get me to play, he would tell me about like how his sessions would go. Sometimes like he would be super frustrated, and sometimes like depending like if it was like a serious battle or something, I would ask him. I kind of already knew how his character was, but playing in the same world is, I guess, a little bit different. So based on what he would tell me, as opposed to what actually goes on, it's different, interesting, but I like it this way better.
Yeah, actually being able to interact with the story rather than just hear about it secondhand in bits and pieces, it's definitely different. I don't know. We talked about your personality a bit, your class, and everything like that. As far as your role in the party, you as the player, not necessarily thinking about, the edginess of Durand, like your role in the party isn't the edgy one. But what was your role in the party? What did you see Durand being, like bringing to the group? Obviously, as you said, probably not the talker, but what would he provide? How would he positively impact the group? Did you think about that when you came in, like what role he would play?
What's interesting is that I didn't know anything at the time of like what type of role he would play outside of combat. So in combat, I had the obvious mentality that he is just going to be super tanky. He was gonna run in and tank anything, try to keep enemies on him, and have tools to be able to survive through combat. But then there's this whole aspect of thinking about what Durand would bring outside of combat, and I had absolutely no clue. And even kind of thinking about it now, like in the beginning, he couldn't really offer that much outside of combat, really. There was no. He was quiet. He was to himself. So I wasn't leading any conversations.
But at the same time, at that point, we didn't necessarily. Well, growing into your role or having the character grow into the role is also something. Because I can say, in my opinion, right now, Durand definitely does have a very big role in the group outside of combat, just in the story in general. He's the level head. He's the voice of reason, in my opinion. He's the
Oh yeah,
one
but
that's going to, stop someone from like going off and doing something ridiculously stupid or dangerous, or it's the one that says, "Hey, let's think about this for a little bit."
we're letting it happen for the drama's sake.
Yeah, right. not if it puts anyone in danger, I don't think. But like
No.
everyone has their roles and like their characters fill you know the role of a character in like any story or show outside of combat, like there's just characters in the story, and I feel like that's where Durand is, and I'm not sure when that started.
Thinking about it now, probably a bit more of a sense of a responsibility for everybody that he was with. At this point, there was little difference in Durand's mind between a lot of the people that he has been traveling with and meeting on the road and his clan's people. Like, that's kind of what I just drove off of, is this mentality of that he was slowly getting over, not getting over, well, kind of, sort of. He never forgot his home, but he was starting to also treat this place like home, and the people around him like family as well. And because of that, he needed to take this like sense of responsibility and be the calm, level-headed person to chill everyone out, since apparently he has a better ability of that than literally anybody.
Well, you have a lot of personality to deal with in the other three, a whole lot of personality. The kobolds. I remember you like writing in Discord, like you're just yelling, you're just calling them babies or something. Then apparently they like hit you really hard or something, and Rumi made fun of you for it.
They are. They do kind of look like baby dragonborns or something. I understand why Durand or Dune was like that.
Until they start throwing rocks at you from the roof.
That's fine. They don't know any better.
Those weren't rocks. You were rolling boulders down on top of us.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a big rock.
They kobolds will be kobolds, man. You can't fault them. They're just babies.
Speaking of kobolds, you guys met those things a couple times before they approached you. So the first time was they were kind of working for the Manticore as like sort of enslaved to him, we get to stay here under the protection of this big scary thing as long as we bring them stuff to eat. And that was the whole thing where you saw, because people had gotten like taken, travelers or merchant caravan or somebody had been taken off the road by these kobolds, brought back to the Manticore's lair. And after you defeated the Manticore and they, I don't think you killed all the kobolds. They like ran away, as kobolds do when they're scared. You then met them again, filling a similar role for the lizard folk in the swamp. And again, you fought the lizard folk. They fled until they surrounded you as you were exiting the swamp, and then declared their fealty to Durand, the big, scaly. You're kind of like a dragon, right? So you're our new leader master now. What was your reaction to that? Were you expecting another fight? Like, who was expecting combat at that point?
Oh, I was definitely expecting combat, for sure. There's no way in hell you would sit here and try to sell. Like, I could relive that shit again, and I'll still sit there and think that I'll have to fight them. I never wanted to. I think even when we confronted them after the Manticore fight, I purposely missed a lightning breath or
Just to
something.
scare them off?
Yeah. I didn't want to actually hit them with anything. So, but like I thought the last time when they were surrounding us, it was like, well, I don't know if I can not kill them this time if this is how it's gonna be.
What were your thoughts after that? Once you saw that you had the opportunity to lead, just like what was it, like 24 kobolds? What were you gonna do with 24 kobolds?
Very well done. Durand or me? Because I was ecstatic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was ecstatic. I fucking loved it, dude. I love the kobolds. Durand would obviously come to adore them as well in his own way. But
Duh, he's not their daddy.
Yes.
And
yeah, Durand must have felt awkward. It like like how do I take care of these freaking kobolds, dude? And especially not knowing anything about them. So we had to bring them back. I had no clue that they didn't like daylight. Didn't know what they ate. Didn't know, like I struggled with a bunch of crap. Basically, literally babies and a father. Yeah, exactly. It was literal parenthood. But it was just another responsibility that Durand took upon him.
But all these moments, these choices, these decisions that either get made or don't have drastic effects.
Of course.
Just like if you had said, no, not really, find your own way, guys. I promise you would see them a third time at least, and you wouldn't like where it was.
What were you thinking of that, huh?
Hmm?
Was it gonna be Brushburn?
It was gonna be with Corvat, yeah.
Ah, I see. Um, there's sometimes where I make a decision because of the player controlling Durand. And rationally speaking, I can't carry around freaking 2 dozen kobolds around the world with us everywhere we go.
You're in your backpack. You have pockets, right?
Right, of course.
No, that makes sense. But just like with the town that you guys adopted, Ambervale, like the things that actually take some problem solving, that take some effort, are the ones that have the payouts, the reward, that feeling of we did something, and here's that tangible proof that we did that. And with I guess the question I had is, when did this shift start? This shift in ideals and the worldview, the going from I'm going to protect people for selfish reasons to what I feel like is a more legitimately noble, like ideal self-view that Durand has now. When did that change? When did it go from we're just adventurers, we're in it for, I'm in it to get stronger, to I'm in it to actually help people that can't help themselves? Do you have an idea? Was it like a slowly over time, or was there something that you did, one like thing that happened that started to make you think, okay, maybe it's not just for me?
It was definitely a gradual thing, but if I can pinpoint a moment where it was probably like the biggest shift, must have been meeting Korvath for the first time and almost losing Sven.
Okay.
Um,
Pretty big thing that could have legitimately happened had you not chosen to do what you did. Sort of mechanically, because we said that you started off as an Eldritch Knight and you transitioned into Paladin. I think that was because you wanted, as a player, to play Paladin, right? Or was it based on did you want to just play the class, or was it I see Durand as becoming a Paladin? Or was it both? Because
uh,
I feel like you were having a decent time with Eldritch Knight, or am I mistaken?
it was a bit of both.
You wanted to be a sword and shield fighter that had access to buffs and debuffs, right? You wanted to be a paladin and a red mage. And I feel like we've got a good mix of those kinds of things, of those. Well, paladin itself with your auras are just constantly buffing people's saving throws, and with the oath spells of the determination class, you get a good mix of things that you wouldn't otherwise have access to. Plus those channel divinities, which are good defensive tools as well.
I have a good amount of CC in general as well. I have Blinding Smite, Command, I believe, Provoke.
We better make sure that for Saturday you know exactly what you have prepared, because you're gonna need them.
Yeah, I think it's just gonna be the standard, which is including all those spells I just said.
First, there was a lot of there's not much in terms of strict like DPS or DPR output built into that. It's pretty much strictly the light, dark, buff, debuff type thing. Especially since we reworked that broken ass channel divinity, it's pretty much all been either protecting somebody in the group or debuffing an enemy. You do
Uh,
enough damage as is with all your smites and shit, so
which half the time, I mean, lately, honest to God, I haven't really been using.
I mean, you don't really need to. You have like the automatic smite, like with an additional D8 for every swing. You got the lightning damage from the enchantment on your sword. You're rolling enough dice as is.
Yeah, I'm doing a good amount of damage and nothing to complain about. And I really like the the way that we've been able to make it that I can pretty much cover almost anything. They're, giving disadvantage against somebody standing next to me, and now
Yeah,
with the channel
That's part of
divinity.
your, that's part of how you built your character. That's the feats that you took and the decisions you made.
I mean,
Same.
don't sell yourself short. Your channel divinity that you made was fucking amazing.
It's basically the redemption paladin from the Xanathars, but instead of taking damage for somebody else, you're taking a saving throw for someone else.
Yeah, but it's cool. It's even though you're referencing something else, it seems unique to me.
Yeah, and you've already used it once to sort of great effect.
Yeah.
Success? Question mark.
Yeah, it worked.
It worked.
Hey, yeah, it worked. I took it.
I'm vanished now. I'm in another dimension. Well, shit, it worked, huh? Not exactly.
Like a guardian, I guess, is the best way of putting it. That just if I could find one word, I could say Durand in like one word for everyone else, it would be some form of guardian, some sort in all things. I want the Durand would like to shoulder everyone's burdens, keep hold of whatever secrets need to be kept, save his, friends or anything at all. Like, everything would be make the lives of the people around him smoother, regardless of the expense.